Today we are going to talk about Firebase and API calls and how you can actually successfully query Firebase documents or document using an API only. So we are going to actually use Flow API platform to test our API calls. But of course, you can use any platform out there. You can use Insomnia. I'm using Insomnia. It's the same as Postman. You can use Postman, and you can transfer those API calls actually to use on your own backend. So if you're using your own backend, or you can use platforms like Make.com or Zapier to actually send API calls, get a document, get documents, authenticate the user, create document, update document fields, delete the document, and so on and so forth. So I think everything that you need to do regarding Firebase documents, you can do it with API calls only. And today I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that. There is a lot of information currently available, of course, in the documentation in Firebase itself. And there is also regarding the documentation, it is actually written in JavaScript API reference, but you can use the same logic because at the end of the day, it's only API calls. So you can only send API calls in order to achieve what you want to do. So without further ado, let's jump into the first API call, which is how to get a document. Okay, so let's begin first with the actual path to the API call, because I think this is the most important part of the video. And this is the actual path, but it's not structured very well here. It's not formatted very well here. So the path is like that. The path is http firestore.google apis.com, and you have the version. Right now the version is 1, so just write v1, and then we have the projects. So you have the projects, and then it actually comes the project ID. And the project ID, I'll just show you where you can get it. Project ID, and then you have the databases, and you have default like that, and then you have documents, and then we have the actual collection that you want to take the documents from, or all the documents of this collection. So this will be the name of the collection, and this will be the name of your project ID. So where you can actually take the project ID from. So if you go to your Firebase console, so that's my Firebase console, and if you click on the gearbox and click on project settings, this will be your actual project ID. I'll probably hide it as this one. I'll probably hide it for security reasons, but this is where you can take it. Great. So this is how you structure your base URA. So your base URA will actually be something like this until documents. And your project ID is the one that you have to put. And then let me go back to Flow. Like I said, I will actually use Flow to get my documents from or to query, because as I said, you can use Postman, you can use Insomnia, or you can use any other API codes. You can also use your own backend with your languages. I use PHP, but you can use JavaScript or whatever language, your Python or whatever language that you're comfortable with that can execute API codes. So first of all, you have to set up your base URA. So your base URA already showed you how it looks like, but this is how it looks like over here. I named my group, so define an API group, and I name it Firebase DB, and this is the link, or this is the URA that you have to define. Like I said, the project ID, you have to put your own project ID over here. Great. And then the first one that we're going to execute is get document. So when you or get documents, actually, because this will actually return you a list of documents. And the only thing that you have to do is write slash and then open is the name of my collection. The name of my collection is open. And the reason for that is because I made it open for everyone, because I wanted you to show you how you can query it. So you actually say, yeah, that works if the collection is open, but 99% of the time, the collection is not open. Maybe it's open for read, but it's not open for write. But don't worry about it. I'll actually show you how you can query an API call if the collection is user authenticated, restricted. For example, if the Firebase rules are user authenticated, user can only change the document, for example. And I will show you, like I said, I will show you how you can do that as well. And then I will actually show you how you can log in as well to Firebase. So stay tuned for that. So let's go back to our Firebase get. So get document or get documents, and the collection, like I said, is open. So let me show you the actual collection. And if I go to open, I have only one thing, which is name. But that so another very important thing is that I can have only name here as a field parameter, but I can store anything. I can store like a date of birth, place of birth, and all the data that you need to store. You can store it actually by the API call. You don't need to have the fields here in Flow created. The only reason you want to create the fields in Flow is that if you want to use them in Flow itself. But if you don't want to use them in Flow, if you just want to make a connection to your Firebase, this is how you can do it. And let me actually show you the actual rules. So if I go to settings and if I scroll down, you can see that I have some collections over here. And then the one that is open, it says open is the name of the collection. And then the create is everyone, read is everyone, write is everyone, and delete is everyone. So I made it, like I said, I made it like that so I can show you how you can read it without any restriction. The collection has no restriction. But later we'll use actually this collection, which is auth collection, and I restrict it to only authenticated users. So like I said, most of the time, because you have a couple of choices over here, so the one that is probably most used is authenticated users. And then if I go to my API calls, the one that we are right now, it's get document or get documents, sorry, and we have the collection open. So it's a get request. This is the base URL, like I said, and then this is the open that we are going to query it. And then if I go to response and test, and if I test this API call, you actually see indeed that this API call is successfully run, and I should have two documents. So this is the first document, this is the first document, and this is the second document over here. So I cannot mark it. So I have two documents. Great. So this is, you can see that it's working successfully. you can get documents if it is open. So what if the documents are actually restricted to only authenticated users? So let me show you how you can do that now. Okay, so the second one is if the document is restricted to only authenticated users. And we are going to use my collection, which is auth collection, which I showed you. It was actually over here. And you can see that my auth collection is authenticated user, authenticated user, authenticated user, authenticated user for create, read, write, and delete. But in my case, I'll only show you a demo how you can write, how you can read the collection. But the same process, it goes for create and write as well. So this is the API query, and the API query, the only difference, it's again get request, and it's a collection. I write the connection, the collection, the collection name, and then the only difference is that you have to have authentication. So the headers should be authentication, and that beer, and that the ID token. So this is the ID token of your user or of yourself. And where is this ID token coming from? I'll actually show you right now. If I go to my Firebase, and I will just going to create a new user. So the new user will be new user.com, and the password will be user1234. So this will be my password, user1234. And I just created this user over here, and then I'm going to use it. And before I use it, actually, there is one more thing you have to do, and that is go to your project settings, and then you actually see web API key. You actually need this web API key in order to log in using API code. So just copy this key. I will hide it, of course, for my own safety, and then go back to your uh, follow flow where we are actually testing my all API keys. But like I said, you don't have to test them in follow flow. And then we have the Firebase login, and then we have the post. It is a post method, and this is the actual URL that you need to query. And the last thing is actually the variable, which is web key. And if I go to variables, I have three variables. So the first variable is the email, because this will be changed like accordingly. What is the email that you want to log in? Then you have the password. What is the password that you want to log in? And then the final thing is what is the web key that you want to log in. Sorry, not that you want to log in, but to your Firebase dashboard that you can get from the dashboard. I just showed you that. And then go to body. It's a JSON body. It's a very simple JSON. And it says the email should be equal to email, the password should be equal to password, and those are coming from those variables over here. And then the return secure token, and it says true. It's very important to actually return you the token. And if we go to response and test, this is the email I just created. This is the password that I just created. And this is the web key. And if I click test API call, I will actually get the response 200 succeed, and then I have the kind, and then I have the local ID, and I have the email display name. I have the ID token, and then I have register, and then I have refresh token, and I have expired in. So now what I want to do is actually I want to take this ID token. Of course, later you can use the refresh token if the session expires. But for this demo purposes, I'll actually use the ID token. So I'm going to get the ID token and then go to get authenticated documents. And like I said, this is this collection, auth collection, is restricted to only by authenticated user. So if I'm not an authenticated user, it will not work. If I actually get rid of that and test it, it will actually get an error, which is missing or inefficient permissions, which is totally fine. And then the only thing that I have to do is I have to paste this ID token that I just got from the API that sent to get this token, which is Firebase login. And then if I click now test API call, you can actually see that I successfully get a response of the documents, and I can save that right now. I successfully get the response from the documents. And if I go to my Firebase right now, real quickly, I can show you actually um, how this looks like. It's a very simple uh, collection. It's called auth collection, and I only have two fields over here, which is the name, two documents with the field of named. I have name and named. For some reason, I did it like that. But if you go back to Flow, you can actually see this is the value of name, and this is the value of named. So this is totally working, and you can get documents when you are authenticated user. So let's go now to create a document. Okay, great. So how you can create a document? Again, use the base URL, and then the base URL, you have to only specify your collection name and slash and then collection name. And in my case, the collection name that I specify, like I said, is the open one, but I just show you if your collection is, for example, user restricted, how you can do it with the user restricted one. You just have to have headers with the ID token. And then if I go to the body, we have, I set it up a body of fields. That is every single type of field because you probably need to write or update any like all kinds of fields. So that's why I made it like I made it with a string. So this is a string, for example, this is another string. This is a boolean. This is an integer. And it says here actually integer value. This is timestamp. This is map value. So this is like a data type in Flow. Now those are tags. So this is array, and those are like JSONs. And we have the null value as well. So this is null. We have the double value here. We have the bytes as well. If you want to store bytes, you probably don't want to, but if you want to, you can store bytes as well. And you have the geopoint value as well. So you have the latitude and longitude as well. And of course, we have the reference, which is also important. And this is how you store a reference when you create a new document. So if I go to test, so if I want to test this one, and if I go to my Firestore, you can actually see I only have two documents. So if I go back right now, right here, click on test, and then quickly go back to Firestore, you can actually see that the document was successfully created. And this is the document that was successfully created, and you can actually see the time that was created. And this is how you can create actually documents using API call only in Firestore. So it's I think this is very helpful because you can use it right now. You can use it with an API for API action for some reason if you want to create a document. Great. And then let's go and see how you can actually get a document using filter or how you can sort it. So let's try that now. Okay, great. So we have successfully created the document. We get documents using authenticated user. We created a document, and now it's time to actually filter documents or sort the documents. So filtering and sorting, it's again use the base arrow, which is this one, and then here uh, the only thing that you need is two dots and then run query. When you have two dots and then run query, and this is a type of post. So it should be a type of post. And then if you go to the body, this is how you structure your body. So in my case, I want to search actually uh, for a document that it says created from API code, and I want to search for this one. And then I want to sort it. I want to sort it by the field name, and I want to be ascending, and then it lets me save that. Of course, that can come from a variable. It doesn't need to come. It doesn't need to be hard coded over here. That can come from a variable. You can create a variable over here, like something like search or something like that, and that can come from a variable. And of course, the equal cannot be equal. It can be like contains or not equal to, or wherever you want to use, you can change it over here. And then when you're ready, when you're done, you can go to response and test and click on test. When you click on test, in my case, I should get one document with the name of created from API code, because if I go to this over here and go to the first document, the name of the first document, it's not created by API code, and this one is created by API code, and this one it's not created from API code, right? So that's why I get only one document. But if I have multiple documents with the same name, I will get it. I will get all of them. So that was actually how you can sort and how you can filter documents using API code. Again, if you want to actually, if your collection is restricted by authenticated users, you can do it using the add header that we just talked about, using this API code. Great. And then the next one is delete document. Okay, great. So we are 4 down, and there's 3 more to go. And we're actually 5 down because we have the Firebase login as well. So we are going to talk about deleting a document. So again, we are going to use the open collection, which is open to everyone. And the deleting of document, again, you need to use the base arrow, because the base arrow, it's always the same. That's why we're using API group, because the base arrow, it's always the same. And then we have the slash, and then we have the name of the collection, and then slash the document ID. And the document ID, in my case, is coming from a variable which is called doc ID, lowercase, this is a string. And then we don't have anything in the query parameters. We don't have anything in the headers. Like I always say, if your collection is authenticated users, restricted by authentication users, or the rules are by authenticated users, you have to specify this over here, like I show you in get out documents. And then if I go over here, let's go to my Firestore, and let's say that this one is wrong, right? This one gets a lot of fields, this one gets a lot of fields, but I made a mistake with this one. This one, it's probably I created by mistake, so I want to delete it. So okay, let's delete it. Let's copy the ID of the document, go to go to Flow, sorry, and then just paste the ID. And when I click over here, I will click over here, and you can actually see an empty JSON, and you can see succeed. And if I go back to my documents, or sorry, to my Firebase, you can actually see that this document is no longer there because it was actually deleted. So this is how you can delete documents using API calls. And let's move to the second one, which is updating documents. So this will be the last part of the video, which is updating documents. Let me just save that real quickly. So updating documents, there are two things you need to know about updating documents. So the first thing is that, do you want to actually delete everything in the document and rewrite only the fields that you specified? So this is one use case. Or you have another use case, which is, I only want to update a certain specific documents, and the other documents I want to leave them in peace. I don't want to touch them at all. So let's first talk about how you can actually delete, how you can actually update fields, and the fields that you didn't specify we're going to actually be deleted. And of course, as always, the base path should be the same, and then you have slash for the API endpoint. We have slash and then open and then slash and then doc ID, and the doc ID again, it's coming from a variable. And in our case over here, we want to change. Let's say we want to change the name, so the name can come from a variable as well. So in the body, we are specifying the fields that you want to update, which is, in my case, it's a name, and what is the string value is actually coming from um, the variable, and it will be name. And the order ID, it's specified to 55, but let's say it's 999, and then how you like I said, if you want to, if the collection is authenticated users, you have to include that in the headers, like I showed you at the beginning of the video. And then if I go to response and test, and if I go to document, let's say this document, we'll try with this document, we'll test it with this document. I will copy the document ID and then look at the name. So the name is created from API call, and then we don't have here, or yeah, we actually have order ID, sorry, it's 2022. And then if I use this API call right now, it will actually delete all the fields that are not there, that are didn't specify. So if I do it like that, update it from for the flow, and then test the API call, I will get success, and you actually show. I forgot to switch screens, but you actually see so in the real time that all the fields were deleted and then were updated. Let me just switch back to full flow so you can see. So the document ID, it's this one, and this is the name. If I want to change it, update it from full flow, and then let's say 22, all right, 22, update it again, go back to Firestore, and you can actually see it's 22. But like I said, this will actually delete all the fields, and probably 99% of the time, this is not what you want to do. If you want to do it, great. But if you don't want to do it, it's not probably what you want to do. And then let's try with the other document that we created, and let's try to only update the fields that we want, and the other fields will actually not update them. So let's go to the second or the last API code that we have, which is patch again. So the method is patch, and the last one was patch again. I forgot to mention that. It's very important. It should be patched. And then the base URL, it's always the same, and the API endpoint, this time it's different. So this time it says slash collection slash document ID, and then we have question mark, and then it says update mask, and then we have dot field paths, and then we have what field paths you want to update, and we have equals to name and update mask dot field paths, and then we have equals to order ID. So here, this is very important. Those are the fields that we specify that we want to update. In my case, I want to update the name and I want to update the order ID. Again, the body is actually the same. The only difference is that I include actually the order ID here as well. So we have the document ID, which we're going to specify, the name, and we're going to specify also the order ID as well. Like I always say, if the collection is authenticated users, restricted by authenticated users, you need to add the this in the headers, like I showed you before earlier. Okay, great. And then the document ID, I will actually change it to the document ID that I created. And then let me just go back again so you can see this is the actual document that we're going to update it. The name it's updated from flow 22. The order is 544555. And then if I go back over here, I will actually do, this is the ID, like I said, of the document. And here I will say updated from flow today. Let's say today. And I already, let's say it's 111. And then send this, test this. And then it's actually giving you back the actual document. And if we scroll down at the bottom, you can actually see the new document being updated and returning back to you. The order ID it's 111, and then the name of the order of the field of the documents updated from flow today. So if I go back to my flow, you can actually, to my Firebase database, you can actually see the name it's updated from flow today, and the order ID it's 111. So that was it actually. That was all the API codes that you need. Probably you all need. And we already talked about how to get a document when the collection is open to everyone. How you can get a document when a collection is restricted by a user authenticated users. And then you have to log in, and then you can query it using the authentication bearer and then the ID of the token. How to create a document, how to get documents using a filter and then order them or sorting them, how to delete a document, how to update old fields and then delete the fields that are not in the update, in the fields that you want to update. And the final thing that we talked about is how to update document with only updating the fields and not messing with the other fields out there. So I really hope that video was helpful. It's not especially flow related, but I think this can be very helpful because at the end of the day, you can actually write now. For some reason, if you want to, you can actually edit this in your code. So it could be on page load, for example. If I have a page over here, and if I want to add it on page load, and if I want to, I don't know, create a document, let's say, for example, and if I want to create a document on page load, I can do it like that, right? I can click on Firebase and I can click on create document, and then I can just create a document. I didn't specify the fields over here, but this will actually create a document in my file store collection. And those are dynamic and they will be dynamically updated in your flow application as well. So like I said, you can do it. You can use it in flow. You can use it in your backend. You can use it everywhere you want to or everywhere you like to. So it's great, actually, arsenal of tools that you can add to your CV, let's say, or to your arsenal of tools that you already know. And yeah, let's tell me in the comments below what is the use case that you're going to use that in the future. So, and before you go, I just want to tell you one more thing. And before you go, I just want to let you know that I set up a Discord channel, which would be for my 3,000 subscribers. So thank you very much for everyone who subscribed to the channel. The Discord channel will be officially announced when I reach the 3,000 subscribers. Uh, it is well structured. It will be well structured with the general tab, which you can see the info, the news. And we will have also click to talk, so you can actually talk to other members of the channel. And we have the YouTube videos as well, where you can see all the YouTube videos. You can also have, if you want to, if you want to request a video, you can go to video requests, and then we have the paid members from YouTube, which they have a separate channel where they can talk. I also have from the mentoring sessions, we have the paid members. And then it's structured by backend for the Flow API calls Superbase SQLite. And then you have the design, where you can ask design questions. We have the custom code, which is code expressions, custom functions, custom widgets, custom actions. And for the Flow source code, we can talk about the Flow source code as well. And we have integrations as well, pub dev packages, platforms, if you want to integrate different platforms. We have the general integrations. And then we have, you don't see it from my face, but we have also the settings. We have the dynamic links, we have the push notifications, we have the app settings, we have the Android deployment, we have the iOS deployment, and we have the web deployment. And the last thing that we have is actually we have the languages, and we have other languages. So we have like Swedish, for example, Spanish, Portuguese, other languages that people from those countries or those languages can talk in their own language. So yeah, like I said, thank you very much for all the subscribers. And before you go, I just want to say that the paid membership for YouTube is now open. So you can be a paid member to my YouTube channel, which means a lot. And thank you very much for all the people who are right now paid members to the channel.